Hey there, good folks. Dr. Charlie here. Today's Charlie Chats, is about there's a woman named Reverend Deborah Johnson, Rev D, as she is called, and she's the founder of Inner Light Ministries, which is based out of Santa Cruz, California. So that's the San Francisco Bay Area. I heard her speak. I've heard her speak a few times, and she has many, many, many gems. Among them, two that I picked up on were what she calls the villain, victim, hero triad, and being in relationship with other people as a metaphor, or a mobile, like a baby's mobile, as a metaphor for being in a relationship with other people. So I want to tell you about those two things today. First, the villain, victim, hero triad. That was really revolutionary for me at the time when she said it, and I have allowed it to shape my understanding about my relationship with other people at a broader level. So, villain, victim, hero, think about the narratives that we tell about ourselves, about other people. In our own narratives, we are almost always the hero or the victim. I'm usually the hero in my narratives. I'm not, sometimes I'm the victim, but that's not usually a role I think that I am playing. Except I'm always going to be the villain in someone else's narrative, and probably neither the victim nor the hero. So all of our relationships really work like this. It revolutionized the way I experienced certain relationships that caused me anxiety, and frustrated me, to understand that I was in fact probably the villain in in another person's narrative. And but also, really, for me, looking at the dynamic of being the hero, of what does that mean to me in my everyday life and my everyday relationships, and what does it mean to be a victim, if victim is what I'm claiming. And usually victim for me is not something that I would verbalize or necessarily think that that's the space I'm in, even if I am, or even if my words say something different. So villain, victim, hero is a really useful paradigm for me to understand that, you know what, your story about this same event that we may have experienced together is probably very different than my story. For me, that it could lead to a greater sense of compassion in, long-standing, frustrating relationships. It doesn't always, honestly. And coming back and being able to recognize that, oh, this is that villain, victim, hero triad again, and which role am I taking, and what would it be like to look at it from perhaps the other two roles in that triad. The other perspective that Rev D imparted upon us as she spoke to us, something that has also really stuck with me for a long time now, is that relationships are like a baby's mobile, like something hanging above a crib. There's a certain amount of tension that keeps that in place. There's a certain amount of tension that each part has to have with all of the other connecting parts in order for that to be stable and stay, like this instead of like this or like that. And when one person, Rev D described it as when you're doing your work, when you're kind of parsing out your inner work. When you shift the mobile, the whole rest of the mobile, when you shift your position in the mobile, the whole rest of the mobile has to shift in order to keep the tension, to keep the balance that keeps that mobile balanced. And people, relating that back to people, the other people in your mobile didn't ask to be moved. So there is often subconscious, I would say, shifting. If I change my role within our dynamic, which holds this certain amount of tension, and you didn't ask for that, you have to scramble in order to keep the mobile balanced. You have to scramble in order to keep some semblance of perhaps the dynamics of our relationship. because you didn't ask for the change, it is often met with frustration and resentment and other feelings that don't feel good when they are given back to you or given to you. So that was also something that sometimes helps me bring a more compassionate focus to really the dynamics of the interpersonal relationships in my life and how that shows up as both villain, victim, hero, triads. And if you think about the triad, three fingers, if you think about the triad as that mobile, if one of the fingers disappeared completely, this is a very different balance than having three parts. And if you think about like a chair that's on four legs, if you take one of those legs away, then the chair, without shifting one of the legs, the chair would fall over because it was used to being balanced with four. The same is true for relationships as we know them, especially as they connect to multiple people at a time. Those might be family relationships or group relationships, group identity relationships, where if one person shifts, all of the rest of the people have to shift in order to keep some semblance of balance. So those were really useful thoughts, and they continue to be useful for me and things I try to remember, especially when I'm frustrated in an interpersonal relationship. So that's from Rev D, Reverend Deborah Johnson, who is at Inner Light Ministries in Santa Cruz, California. And I am Dr. Charli and have enjoyed speaking with you today and hope to connect again soon. Take great care. Bye-bye now.